guys, what is going on? Blossom is back and welcome back to another episode of Top Drives. And I gotta say, this video, like prepping for this video, took way longer than I expected. Like, this took like a couple of hours. I don't know why it took so long. I guess the sheer amount of cars that had their pictures changed or updated was just way larger than I expected. But anyway, today's video, I want to talk about every single, or just showcase every single car that got a photo change or photo update in the Pacific Coast Highway update. So this is going to go by really quickly. Basically, I'm just going to show you the picture, give you my brief thoughts and my brief personal rating. So let's get into it. Number one, Acura RLX Sport Hybrid. This got a photo change. As you can see, I give it a 9 out of 10. Very solid. You can see the entire thing. Now, one good thing that Hutch has really done well with these updates is actually giving a lot of these cars better photos. And I've said this so many times, and it's pretty prevalent that Hutch agrees, because if not, they wouldn't make such an effort, because it takes a lot for Hutch to actually change something in Top Drives. I mean, look at clubs. That thing has been untouched since 2018. But anyway, yeah, these changes are really, really cool. There's some pictures in here that were absolutely atrocious that finally got changed, and we're gonna see it today. So Acura TSX, really nice photo. It's the same one, but they just zoomed out. I give it a 9 out of 10. Moving on now, we have the Alfa Alfetta GTV. Once again, same exact photo that it always had, but zoomed out once again. 9 out of 10. Very, very solid. Hutch are doing a good job with these photos. Next up is the Aston Martin Lagonda. This is a 7 out of 10. Once again, it's a zoomed out version of the original photo, but I always thought that the original photo was always pretty boring. It's not even that high quality. It's not even high res. The background's pretty boring, and it's just... It's average. It's average. It's a good looking car in my opinion, and I know that's a hot take, but it's just an average photo, 7 out of 10. Next up is the Aston Martin V8 Vantage Volante. This is a beautiful photo. I love the background. It's just, the greenery, the bush, but then obviously the main character of the photo is obviously the car itself. You can see the entire thing cropped perfectly. Very, very nice. 10 out of 10. What I can say is that the designer that is in charge of, refurbishing these photos is definitely not the same person that designs the track sets, because the track sets are horrendous. The car photos are getting better and better. Next up is the Audi Auto Union. Now, the Auto Union, I actually liked the old photo, so I never thought that this was a car that needed a change, but still a solid photo, 8 out of 10. Moving on is the Audi S6. This got a photo change. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. I can't see the entire thing, so it could be better cropped. Background, I mean, it's not like a white background. It's a blue background. I do like the colors though. They are very subtle. You see plain pastel colors. So the blue in the background, the sand, I guess. Red isn't really much of a pastel color. Not that shade of red, but it works well with the yellow and the super rare. 7 out of 10. It's solid. Now, next up is the Austin Ambassador. Now, most of the scores that I'm going to give in this video, by the way, are going to be above average. Like, average to me is 5 out of 10. So most of these are going to be above average. So Austin Ambassador, 6 out of 10, slightly above average. You can see the entire car. The reds is okay, but once again, not the greatest photo in the world. It's kind of boring, but it's still not bad. So 6 out of 10. Moving on now is going to be the Bentley Flying Spur, 10 out of 10, 100%. This is probably my second or third favorite revamped photo from every single car that got a photo change. This is absolutely gorgeous. I was telling the people in my Discord server that because of this photo change, I actually want this car now. It's really, really, really nice. So yeah, 10 out of 10 for me. Moving on now is the BMW 640D. Now this was a little bit controversial. Yes, the new photo is nice, but the old photo that the 640D had that you can see on the right was also really good, and in all honesty, I think it's a downgrade. The new photo is an 8 out of 10 in my opinion. Well, I'm actually docking it a point. I think it really is a 9 out of 10, but I'm docking it a point because it's replacing a photo that was 10 out of 10 in my opinion. The 640D's older photo was way sexier in my opinion. The fact that it was in motion, kicking up the dirt in the background, and I'm pretty sure that this was a pretty similar car to what Jeremy Clarkson Austin was driving in the Australia special of Top Gear, where they were also racing in the dirt. So there was a little bit of that callback, which I really enjoyed with the old 640D photo. So honestly, I don't know why this car or this particular card got a photo changed, because the original photo was so damn good. Not any animosity to the new photo. The new photo is still very, very nice, if not as good. Well, not as good. I think the old photo was just a little bit better. I mean, it's still a strong photo, but I really don't know why this had to get a picture change. The old photo was just perfect. Moving on now is going to be the BMW 750i, 9 out of 10 in my opinion, very solid. Following that is the 530D. This is 8 out of 10. This car was just zoomed out so you can see the entire thing now. Still very solid. Moving on is the Buick Century, 6 out of 10. It's okay. Still can't see the entire thing, and it's not really high res, but it is better than what it used to be. Cadillac Eldorado, once again, it's okay. Background's kind of boring. I can't see the back of the car. Honestly, it could be a hatchback. I mean, it definitely isn't, but it does look like it because you cannot see the back. So 6 out of 10. Still above average. Now, moving on is the Cadillac SRX. Now, the original photo of the SRX is one of the ugliest photos in the game. If you watch my best and worst series in Super Rares, this one is always the winner for being the worst. I mean, the old photo, because it was literally just the back of the car. You couldn't see anything else. So this is a way nicer photo. 8 out of 10. Thank you, Hutch, for changing the SRX. There are some cars in here that were in desperate need of photo changes that finally got a photo change, which is really nice to see that they are actually listening. Now, the Cadillac STS, 8 out of 10, very solid photo as well. Moving on now are the Chevrolets. We have the Aerovet at 8 out of 10. They just zoomed out from that, so that's really cool. We have the Camaro SS. Now, I'm giving this a 4 out of 10, mainly because I don't like computer-generated images. If you're going to give me a game about realism, then just give me the picture of the real freaking car, you know what I mean? Now, there is a little bit of bias. I like computer-generated images, like kind of like magazine rendered images. I don't know how you really like describe it, but like if it's from like the 90s or early 2000s, there's a certain vibe to it that I do like the aesthetic of. But like early, like newer cars like 2015 or maybe even 2012 and above, computer generated images, something that you would see on like a Chevrolet website or something, like a make your car kind of situation where you can just like customize your own car on how you want it delivered or whatever. Like, I don't like that. I feel like there are just so many nicer photos of the Camaro SS 2019 out there that they could have sourced and not something that is, computer generated like this. So I don't like this photo. 4 out of 10. Moving on now is going to be the Camaro SS. Now this is a 10 out of 10 in my opinion, because it is a real Chevrolet Camaro and it's in motion. I love the color, fits very well with the red in the ultra rare, and the background is really beautiful. Moving on now is the Code. They just zoomed out. 7 out of 10. It's a solid photo. I like the bronze wheels. K5 Blazer, same thing. They just zoomed out, but this is a really, really nice photo. Honestly, actually looks like a painting. But there is, like I said, for the older cars, a certain aesthetic to it that I do appreciate, and that's why I'm giving it a higher score of 8 out of 10. Moving on is the Lacetti, 6 out of 10. It's just a pretty boring looking car. It's really hard to give any justice to the car that looks like that. But all right. Chrysler 300H is next, 7 out of 10. They just zoomed out. Background is boring, but I'm giving it extra points for the spec of the car. White walls with that red body is classic perfection. Moving on now is the Chrysler New Yorker, 7 out of 10. For a really old car, this photo is strangely pretty high res, so I'll give them credit for that. Moving on is the Chrysler PT Cruiser. I'm gonna give it as average as it can be because it's picture perfect. The crop is good, the car is in motion, I like the angle, so as a photo it's a 10 out of 10. But the car is a 0 out of 10. It's so freaking ugly, and because of that, I'm just gonna average it out 5 out of 10. But you know what? Hutch did the best they could for a car that looked as bad as that. Chrysler Imperial Concept is next. Yeah, it's all right. They just zoomed out. Citroen Metropolis. It's a crappy car in the game in terms of stats, but at least it looks good now. 8 out of 10. That's a really, really nice photo, and I can actually tell that it is actually a saloon. I think it's actually classified as an estate. It looks like a saloon. Very interesting. All right, moving on now is the XM. I love this photo, by the way. The angle is just really, really cool. I like these like top-down angles where you actually can't see the wall in the background, and it's just, you know, like a car in an open space, like a racetrack or a runway or something like that. It just looks like it's natural, and I love that. So Citroen XM, 9 out of 10, very strong photo. Moving on is the C5 Cross Tourer. It's all right, 8 out of 10. They zoomed out, that's about it. Ooh, I skipped that one. The Pure Tech. Yeah, I mean, it's a good photo of a really ugly car, but I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. Not as ugly as a PT Cruiser. C5 Saloon is next, very solid, like the angle, nothing bad about that at all, 8 out of 10. Next is the CX GTI Turbo. Now this is really, really good. 10 out of 10 for sure. I love the angle, the car is in motion. It's high res for an old car. I love the background. This is one of Hutch's best work when it comes to photos, the CX GTI Turbo, in my opinion. Next up, Citroen AX GTI. Now I like this because this actually makes me want to collect the car, because although it's probably really boring in real life, it actually looks fun, you know? So yeah, because the photo is the car, you know, making it look fun, I actually have more of an incentive to want and go and collect it now. So 9 out of 10, great effort. Moving on is the Citroen Axle, you know, 8 out of 10, change the photo, perfectly cropped, nothing bad to say about that. DS Convertible is a pretty interesting one because I think some people aren't a fan of side profiles because you can't really see the front or the back, but you can't deny that you can at least see the entire car, right? So I think 7 out of 10 is strong. I like the background, but then again, I am that kind of person that would rather see more of a 3D image than a 2D one, where I could at least see the front, back, or the top or anything like that. But still, as far as side profile images go, yeah, it's pretty strong. Moving on now is the Di Tommaso Pantera, 6 out of 10. Yeah, I can see the entire thing, which is cool, but it's still a pretty boring photo. I think it's a bit too high. Now, A for effort, once again, is one of those photos where Hutch kind of just intentionally put it too high, so the B in the Ultra doesn't block it, which is cool, but at the same time a little bit funky because there's so much empty space at the bottom now. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword with these kind of photos. Background's pretty boring as well, so 6 out of 10. Moving on, Dodge Sidewinder. The only one I'm giving an 11 out of 10 because this is picture perfect. I love this. This is my favorite photo of the entire update. With every car, they got a photo change, okay? You know me, I love my butts, and I love my butt photos, and that is one of the nicest butt photos in the game. The deep dish tires, the sunset, everything fits so perfectly. Even the colors, the red, the purple, the orange, the yellow, and the white, or the cream, or whatever you want to call it. You can even see like a little slight reflections on the pavement in the bottom below the tires. Everything about this photo is genuinely perfect. 11 out of 10. Moving on now is the Magnum, 6 out of 10. I mean, they zoomed out, nice crop, boring photo. Okay, and then with the Venom, once again, they just zoomed out, 7 out of 10. You know, it's all right. Then the Intrepid. Now, I'm giving this an 8 out of 10 because the Dodge Intrepid actually has a pretty nice backside, in my opinion, but it's really ugly in the front. So because of that, the car showing its back has a higher score than the other Intrepid showing its front. I don't know, man. The front of this car is just so ugly, in my opinion. 6 out of 10, though. I mean, they zoomed out, and you can see the entire thing. As a photo, it's as good as it's gonna get, but it's a really ugly car. Moving on now is the DS3 convertible, 7 out of 10. The DS6, 6 out of 10, because they just zoomed out of a black photo, or, you know, black background photo. 7 out of 10 on the DS3. You know, I like the angle. It's very solid. And the Fiat 500, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. It's pretty strong. I like the angle, but there's something about it that just seems a bit too gray. And then moving on is the Abarth, and once again a bit too gray, so I'm docking points for that. Moving on is the Fiat Cinquecento Sporting. Yeah, nice to see that I can actually see the front of the car now. 7 out of 10, very solid. And then moving on is the 595 Turismo, 9 out of 10. But one thing I will say about this car that really holds me back from giving it a 10 out of 10 is, you know, at a first glance, it looks really cool. Like the colors really pop up. It's high res and all that. But one thing I realized, the longer you look at this photo, you kind of get a headache because there's so much going on in the background and just everywhere. Even the ceiling is just like, there's so many little elements in the ceiling, all these little gaps and lines, and yeah, the longer I look at it, the more painful it gets. Still really strong photo, so 9 out of 10. Moving on is the Escort, 10 out of 10, 100%. If I can see a plane, that's 10 out of 10. And then we have the Ford Mustang. I don't like the spec in this car. I just don't like the colors here. It's just too green. So 6 out of 10 in my opinion. Moving on is the Ford S-Max, 8 out of 10. Very strong photo, nothing much to say about it. It's just solid. Same thing with the Kuga. It's a very solid photo. We got a photo change, as well as the Ford Probe. Now I like the angle over here, to be honest, and I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Moving on is the Focus, an 8 out of 10 as well. Great background, great angle, the car is in motion. Only reason why I'm not gonna give this a 10 out of 10 is because the car is kind of boring. Moving on now is the Mondeo, 7 out of 10. They changed the photo, but I think they changed the photo, or they might have just zoomed out. But yeah, the background is just really boring. That's why 7 out of 10. Next is the Focus, 9 out of 10. Literally did not own this car before the photo change. After the photo change, I collected it and I maxed it out. Literally only because it got a new photo. So yeah, man, you know, it brings value. Ford Edge Sport, 8 out of 10. I just don't like the color. It reminds me of an Atlas. The next one is huge, by the way, because for the first time ever, I'm actually seeing the front of the Ford Escort. I've never seen the front of this car because, if you know, they zoomed out of the old photo. The old photo literally only showed like the headlight. It never showed the grille. It didn't even show the rally lights. So I never knew what the front of the car looked like because I never had enough interest to go search up the car myself on Google Images. So it's nice to finally see the face of the Escort. 9 out of 10, very strong. Moving on, Geostorm, 7 out of 10. They just zoomed out a little bit, but I feel like they could have zoomed out even more because the back is still cut off a bit. Next is the Yukon Denali, very strong. I like the presence, 8 out of 10. Then we have the Safari, another 8 out of 10. They zoomed out in this one, you can see the entire car. We have the Honda Jazz, 7 out of 10 once again. I just feel like there's too much going on. I don't know how I feel about the blurry people in the background. Feels a little bit too fake. Next up is the Honda CRX. Now, this, although it's a boring background, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10 because the angle of the photo, the crop of the car, but mainly the spec and the design of the car as a whole, I just really love. This is so 80s, and because it's being, true to its era with the theme, I'm gonna give it a higher score than I usually do to darker or just boring backgrounds, blank backgrounds. So that's a very nice photo. Next is the Prelude. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I don't own this car yet, but I'm going to, because that photo is amazing, and I want to collect this car now because of the photo alone. Moving on is the Honda CRZ, very solid 8 out of 10, and the Honda Legend, also very solid 8 out of 10. This actually reminds me of like old school Gran Turismo vibes, I don't know, something about the gray and the fact that it's just Japanese, but it's a really good photo. In all honesty, I'm gonna change this to a 9, but yeah, I mean, in the video I've already put it as an 8, but it's really nice. Moving on now is going to be the Honda Prelude. Now this one is probably the worst, if not the second worst photo change. This is really poor from Hutch. Very boring, not high res, and I can't even see the entire thing. 4 out of 10, under average. Moving on now, Honda S2000, yeah, that's all right, 8 out of 10. And of course we have the Type S, which is also an 8 out of 10 because the spec of this car is really sexy. Moving on now is going to be the Honda Pilot. It's 5 out of 10. Yeah, but this one's pretty boring. Now, moving on now, Hummer H2 SUV. Now, fun fact, this is the only Hummer that I actually don't have collected. I have every other Hummer in the game besides this one because the old photo was just so ugly, I didn't want to collect it. But now, I do because it actually is a presentable car. 9 out of 10. Moving on is the Q60. I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10. This is the prize car that I fused away, of course, very infamous. And then moving on is the Jaguar XFS, 10 out of 10. I love this photo. I don't know if there's any British bias, but it seems like the British cars get the best photos. Think Lotus, for example. Moving on, Jaguar XJ12. Okay, well, maybe I'm kind of contradicting myself because the Jaguars don't have nice pictures. Well, this one in particular. Well, the old photo was really bad. This one's just average. It's the same for the next one. The old photo for the XJ6 was horrendous, but the new photo photo is a little bit better. I like the background, and you know, the angle's pretty cool. 8 out of 10. Moving on is the Koenigsegg Jesko attack. I mean, all they did was they zoomed out, and I think it's a higher res photo from the previous one. Still, though, pretty boring for, you know, a car like a Jesko attack. 6 out of 10. Moving on, Koenigsegg Agera final, 10 out of 10. I just love the spec on the car. The colors really pop here. The red on the black with, you know, kind of that bright white radial around the car of the lighting, but you have that gray fading to black gradient background. It's not completely just plain black. It's really, really nice. Like, this is a solid photo. Moving on now is the Lamborghini Huracan GTS. That's okay, 7 out of 10. Now, this was a bit controversial, is the SVJ. I think the photo is really nice, but I don't think I'm going to give it a super high score because I just hate the color. That orange, I know it's like Lamborghini classic, but it just doesn't fit. I don't like it. I actually preferred the older Miura spec photo better. That maroon color was super unique. This, I don't know, it's a bit too in your face. I don't really like it. Moving on, Lotus Elise. I don't really like this one either. 7 out of 10 in my opinion. Maybe borderline 6. It's just a bit too, I don't know. It makes the Lotus seem so big, but it's a Lotus. It's not big. All right, moving on is the Lotus Esprit S4. Wow, they really did this car justice, because before, the old photo that this car had was one of the worst photos in the game. So props to Hodge on that, 9 out of 10. Moving on is the Maserati. Now, these Maseratis have solid photos, so 9 out of 10 on this one, as well as this one, 9 out of 10. Very, very solid. I like it. It's just, they're very high-res pictures. Carif is okay. Definitely an improvement from the old photo, but you still can't see the entire thing, so 7 out of 10. Moving on is the Maserati 3500 GT, 10 out of 10, 100%. Everything about this is just so perfect. I love it. Moving on, the RX-7. I feel like it got a little bit of a downgrade, to be honest. The photo's a bit too low. Can't see the back. And the back of the RX-7 is actually what really is beautiful. It reminds me of those 1980 Trans Ams and the Camaros and stuff, and you can't really see it here. I think it's called an F-body. I think that's what the style is called in the US with GM. So yeah, I mean, you know, I just feel like this could be a little bit better. Moving on, Mazda MX-5. I hate this photo. I'm gonna be honest. I just don't like it, but I can't give it a 0 out of 10 because you can see the entire thing and you can see the car. But there's something about the lighting in this photo that just doesn't make any sense to me. Why are those wheels so bright? I don't know. The lighting is just off. It looks like, you know, someone with really bad Photoshop skills decided to change the lighting in this photo. Or, I don't know, maybe the stage was just weird. I don't know. Something about this car is just off. I don't like it. Moving on is the RX-8, and finally, dude, because the original photo for the RX-8 was one of the worst photos in the game. So this is actually one of the best Mazda photos in my opinion. I love the background, I love the spec, the car's in motion, and you get to see the entire thing. This is a solid photo, 10 out of 10. Moving on, the McLaren 12C GT3, 10 out of 10 as well. That is a very sexy angle, oh my god. If only it would have been perfect if instead of 59, it said 69. That would have been an 11 out of 10, for sure. All right, moving on now. McLaren F1 GT. Yeah, man, they just zoomed out, and it gave this car so much more justice. 9 out of 10. Moving on is the Maybach 57S. 9 out of 10 as well. I get to see the entire thing. Cars in motion. Very solid photo. Then we have the 300 SL. Now this is probably my second favorite picture change, along with the Citroen and before or under the Dodge Sidewinder. Finally, dude, the original photo of the 300 SL was so bad. It didn't do the car any justice at all, but this is so solid. The picture is beautiful. This is one of the nicest Mercedeses to ever exist, and I think it would have gotten an 11 out of 10 if Hutch chose a photo with those doors up. That would have been sick. All right, moving on. Mercedes A180, it's okay, 7 out of 10. Next up, MGB, a bit too in your face, a bit too red for my opinion, 5 out of 10. Next up is the Mini Cooper convertible, very solid, 8 out of 10. And then we have the Nissans. Now, the Nissans got a lot of photo changes, but none of them were actually really jaw-dropping in my opinion. This one was just zoomed out, 6 out of 10. This one was also just zoomed out, 6 out of 10. Yeah, This was also zoomed out, 7 out of 10. These original photos weren't that cool. Now this one's nice. I like the Cedric because it's got an entire picture change. It used to have a white background. Now you can actually see like a, you know, a sunset almost and a building. I like the angle, so 9 out of 10. This is very solid. But then I think the rest are all just zoom outs, right? So this was a zoom out, yeah, so 6 out of 10. This was a zoom out, 6 out of 10. And this was also a zoom out, 5 out of 10. I mean, yeah, they just zoomed out. That's it. I mean, not bad, but not amazing. Peugeot 307, 7 out of 10. I do like the green. there's a lot of green in this photo, but they're all different shades, so that's pretty cool. Next up is the 405, 6 out of 10. I think it's okay, but I don't know why it's black and white. I don't see any necessity for that. It's the 80s. They had color in the 80s. Moving on now is the Peugeot 308, solid photo. I really like it. Actually, not a bad looking car. 9 out of 10 in my opinion. Next up is the 306. They just zoomed out, 5 out of 10. I don't like that car too much. RC Diamonds, they zoomed out on this, but I mean, it's actually a pretty decent photo. Cars in motion, I like the angle, 8 out of 10. Moving on, Pontiac Fiera, 10 out of 10 in my opinion. Now, I know earlier with the MGB, I said that it was too much red and I didn't like it. Well, this one is a little bit different. First of all, it isn't a 2D photo. I can see, you know, more depth to the car. And it's not, I don't know, this one just, the gradient to it just feels a little nicer. You know, the bronze in the rims, kind of almost orange, is a really nice gradient to just the red. I don't know. There's something about it. But this is a nice red photo. The MG was an ugly red photo. That's just my opinion. Moving on is the Pontiac 6000 STE, 6 out of 10, it's okay. Next up is the Firebird. I really like this. Now this is what I feel like the Mazda RX-7 could have gotten, a little bit more of the back end. Firebird, once again, if I could see the entire car, I would have given it a 10 out of 10. This really looks like Knight Rider, and it's really cool. I'm really happy that the Hutch chose this spec of Firebird. It's really nice. Moving on is the Porsche 914. It's okay, 7.1 out of 10. Porsche Carrera 2, 6 out of 10. They just zoomed out of what already was a really boring photo and a really bad photo as well. Yeah, I mean, you get to see the front now, which is, you know, definitely an improvement, but it's still 2D. Next up is going to be the Cayman. Love this photo, 9 out of 10. Next up is the 911 Turbo, another car that got a little bit of justice finally, because the original photo was just side profile hell, where you couldn't see the front and the back. Now you can see the front, but still, why? They had color in the 90s. I don't get it, you know? Like, why did you choose a black and white? It doesn't look very nice. Next up, Lil Red. They just zoomed out, but it's a very nice photo, 8 out of 10. Next up is the Banana, 10 out of 10 for sure. I love those garage doors, dude. There's something about those garage doors just hit different. Next up, Renault Safe Safrane, whatever it is, 9 out of 10. Definitely, like, I never knew that this car even existed. It looks like a completely different car from what the other car looked like, but yeah, it's really nice. I like it, 9 out of 10. Next up is going to be the Magan. I love the angle, 8 out of 10. It's just that the spec is a little bit boring, but nothing about the photo. Photo's great. Rezvani Beast X, 9 out of 10. Actually, for the Rezvani video, where I even showcased, I think I showcased the prize car and the prize car autobiography. I actually used this exact photo, so it's really nice to see it here. So 9 out of 10 for sure. Then we have the Rover 220, 9 out of 10. Love the angle. It just looks so, like, it reminds me of like a classic Mercedes 300 CE almost. I don't know, something about it. And then the C8, I mean, they just zoomed out. Okay, 6 out of 10, it's okay. Subaru Rex, 8 out of 10. I like it, it's very homey. It almost looks like it was taken in Black Ops in Nuketown. Then we have Subaru XV, they just zoomed out, 6 out of 10. Subaru XT Turbo, 6 out of 10. Once again, I kind of like the old photo with this, it had snow in it or something, right? Like, I don't know. This one just seems like the angle is cooler, but the background got worse. So 6 out of 10. Subaru Legacy, 7 out of 10. It's okay. And then we have the Subaru R1. They just zoomed out, 6 out of 10. And then next we have the Suzuki. So Suzuki Alto, they zoomed out. Bit too white, in my opinion. You can't even see where the end of the hood is and where the start of the background begins, because it's just so white, so bright as well. Kara's better though because it's, you know, at least there's some color, more depth to it. 6 out of 10 still though. Next up, Suzuki Swift Sport. Yeah, this is a strong photo. I like it. It's cute. 8 out of 10. And then we have the TVR S series. 8 out of 10. Nice to see the entire car. Very solid photo. Vauxhall Corsa at 7 out of 10. Vauxhall Cavalier at 8 out of 10. I like the background and the colors fit very nicely, the blue and the green. And then we have the Vauxhall Signum. They just zoomed out, but hey, now I know that it's an estate, an estate. And the Vauxhall Maloo, 9 out of 10. Very strong photo. I like the red in the car contrasting with the, or is it contrasting? No, complementing the red in the Ultra. Now I think Volkswagen is next, right? Yes, the Touareg. I'm actually gonna give this a 10 out of 10. I actually really like the photo. Spec on the car is actually very good looking. So although I don't like Volkswagens, this is actually very clean. Next up is going to be the VR6, 7 out of 10. They just zoomed out, but it's a solid photo. And then we end up with the Volvos. I think they're 4 left. V60, 9 out of 10. I like it. It's a very Swedish photo. I'm not even sure if this was taken in Sweden. Just, it looks very peaceful. Very Volvo. 850 all-wheel drive, 10 out of 10. I mean, I'm a sucker for snow, dude. You put snow in the background, it's a 10 out of 10. I think, in my opinion, to get an easy 11 out of 10 from me, the brownie points that Hutch needs to hit: snow in the background, Japanese car plates. That would be sexy. Next up is the Volvo V90 T6, 9 out of 10, very solid photo. And last but not least, the Volvo 145, 9 out of 10. I love the homey vibes, that nice little house in the background with the wagon. It looks like this place is either driven, the car is either driven and the house is owned by one happy Swedish family or a serial killer. You don't know till you know. But anyway, guys, that's going to be it for today. That's every single car that got a photo changed in PL19. But anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. Remember to stay safe, wash your hands, and blossom out. Peace.
Bro, this song just makes me so happy.
Me too.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly, got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly, got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Sit back, relax in my Bonneville Pontiac, hold tight all night.